Hello and welcome to CLEA'S WORLD. Today I'll be sharing with you more of the information I've received from Source in the last BQH hypnosis session. I will read from a transcript of the session. When I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking to my practitioner who's asking me questions I've prepared in advance of the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking to myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from Source. The very first question here has to do with what's happening in the United States in terms of how real estate agents are going to be paid in the future, which might seem like a small thing, but the fact is it is an industry that's being completely revolutionized. Now, we have said we don't want to change anything. Lots of industries are collapsing, and even at 3D level, you can see that the problems are creeping up from everywhere, every side. Facebook has recently basically fired in the last several months over 100,000 people, and they are not the only ones. Now, obviously, we have a problem with a lot of NPCs have left. So we have less people than we had before. So this is quite normal. We're trying to make it look like it is normal, and there are jobs disappearing. But also at the same time, it's because these companies are not pulling the way they were before. And the real estate industry is a huge industry. And so this was something I wanted to ask Source about. So here we go. Lorrayne, why are we dealing with the changes in real estate all of a sudden? Is this a good thing? Me. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a sign. Is it a good thing? It's just a sign of what we have discussed this entire time, which is we're in charge and we are changing little things. We're playing with different things. Also because, again, industries, the way that they worked before, they're collapsing. They're not sustainable anymore. The actors in them are trying to hold them up as much as they can and patch holes here and there. But I mean, it's like a sinking ship. And we are intending for these things to be maintained as much as possible because we don't want to be rebuilding them. And we don't want to be envisioning a completely new way of doing things because it's too much work. I, as Clea, and it's me, it's one. And I'm explaining it as Clea so you can see because this is my energy, it's where I'm at. I want to focus on my own life. I have no interest in the rest of the world. The rest of the world, in terms of the reality that's outside of me as Clea, does not exist. My reality ends where I am affected. And so there is a lot, for example, a lot of fear mongering, like climate change, for example. Clea has always been concerned about these things. And now she's like, none of this matters. None of this is real. She was concerned about the measures that would be put in place because of the fake climate change and emergency. But she also was concerned about, for example, pollution, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the real pollution, the real cause of destruction, which is the corporations, not the fake cause, which is cows and humans. But even now, all of that is gone. There is no more fear because everything is exactly as it should be. And it is in place, and the energy and the vibration are being rebalanced. So we will not have these dire situations anymore. So yeah, so in that sense, even this with the real estate industry is fine. We're having, you know, whatever tiny little changes that could keep everything going in the best possible way without having to absolutely revolutionize everything. Because even that is a thing of the past. Even dealing with houses, we have to buy houses. We spent 30 years of our lives as slaves to pay a mortgage and all these things. All these things is not even stuff that you can change or modify. This is stuff that never even had any place existing. So you see, either you start anew here completely on this planet, which we're not going to do because that's only us. There's only a handful of us. We don't want to do this. Or you just let it run a little bit longer, and that's what we're doing. But it's not going to run exactly the same way because it is impossible. Even the NPCs, as much as we control them, they're still breaking down. They're dying and they're becoming debilitated. And they're just like it happened with a cat we were talking about, and we just don't have enough people to maintain these systems. And now the reference to the cat is something that I saw, a dead cat. And Source went into why I reacted to it the way that I did, and that was earlier in the session. So then we move into what I call personal questions. Now, as you probably know by now, if you've seen any of these, obviously these are not questions that only pertain to me because there is no me, there's no individuality. If I am going through something, we're all experiencing something similar because that's what we're working with or working on. And so that's why I share this with you. So Lorrayne says, I honestly don't care either. I'm with Clea. I'm so over it all. Okay, now we're moving to personal questions. What is the story with all the coughing and the fact that my throat has become so vulnerable and now my lungs and sinuses? Both my daughter and I have been coughing for months and I still have breathing issues. And what about the super low iron levels? I had a dream months ago where my tanks were being replenished, but in 3D, this hasn't happened. Why did I set up this trigger for vulnerability to happen so many years ago, both the sore throats and the anemia? Are the low iron levels meant to slow down the activity level of the MPC? Is there something wrong happening with the MPC, like it can't keep up with the clearing or something? For a while, my right eyelid didn't even open right away in the morning. Is my MPC just breaking down like every other MPC? And I keep track of these things because they are odd things, but I did set up triggers. Like, for example, for my throat has always been a vulnerable point, but of course, this has become 10-fold, 100-fold worse since I've started channeling. I don't even like this word at any rate, or communicating this information. And I've spent several months this winter, and I'm talking about months, where all day long I was coughing, and I even had to go to the hospital at some point for pneumonia last year. I never had these issues before. So same with my iron levels. I've always had low iron levels, and all of a sudden, the last 2 years, I've had to do iron infusions because of how low they were, to the point that my doctor said people with this level of iron wouldn't even be able to get out of bed. And I was perfectly fine, but I could feel that there was something. So clearly something is not right. And we know that these are just triggers. But the thing with the eyelid really upset me, really flustered me, because I'm like, what's going on? My body's breaking down. So I wanted to know, is it because we're never here anymore, or what's the story? Me. So we already said NPCs have trouble with clearing sometimes, and they don't move as fast, so they don't react as fast as we do, meaning us as the higher self. And so there is some of that, yes. At the same time, we already said that the higher self decides nothing has to happen. So yeah, when Clea says, I set up these triggers, she was referring to certain things she's done in her life that would cause, you would imagine logically from a 3D perspective, well, of course this happened. Therefore, now these are the consequences. In reality, we know that's not how it needs to happen. But this was her excuse, for having these episodes. Now, the episodes have become worse. So really culminating in last year. But the coughing was not due to physical condition. The coughing was due to the energy that she was clearing. Absolutely. And in fact, she knows that the eyelid situation, which was very off-putting, but also was rattling her because she's saying, what's going on? And is this going to be a thing now? And it only lasted a few days, but she knew right away. And she goes, wow, my higher self really doesn't want to be here. So I wake up, but I really don't even want to be awake. My body doesn't even want to respond. But it was signaling to her, basically the body is really very much reflecting what the higher self is working on and how the NPC is actually integrating information. And so, of course, the moment that we moved into this new phase, if you want to think of it that way, but this new emotional state where we're actually excited now, even at NPC level, or more peaceful, or basically where the resistance is gone, all of this has dissipated, all of this has gone away. And all of a sudden she's fine because now she doesn't want to be here. Which again, doesn't mean she wants to be here forever. But as I mentioned earlier, we're excited about being here, which also answers another one of Clea's questions, which is, well, just because the higher self is excited, in the meanwhile, we as NPCs are suffering and we're stuck here. This has been the way she has thought about this in the last 2 years, because it has been challenging, we realize that. But now she sees that it's not just the higher self that is excited. Not only, but now the NPC is excited because there is no separation, no conscious separation anymore between the higher self and the NPC. Now, the NPC is aware, having integrated everything and having stopped putting up resistance, has now realized, now feels the excitement. And so, yeah, it is. All of this is happening, including the mucus and everything. And Lorrayne, you were mentioning the same issue. It is because of the clearing of the energy. And we are putting out a lot of energy because of what we are doing. Of course we are. We are maintaining this entire reality in place. There is a lot that's being done. Now, it's not a lot like, we're not talking about labor here. For the higher self, everything is nothing. But we are talking about the fact that the NPC has to clear this energy and is living in these conditions that change very quickly. And this is why we've had some physical challenges adapting. Not because the NPC is breaking down, or again, the higher self. And we have said that the higher self is not here all the time anymore, but we are here enough, and you don't need to be here all the time. If the higher self's intention is to keep the NPC in order, it will stay in order. It's not just going to go to heck because the higher self is gone for a little while. We're not talking about the higher self being gone for months or years. So the NPC is not just suffering from neglect. It's really just trying to clear what's happening. And so, no, I mean, NPCs are breaking down, but that's not the case with us as essences, as NPCs with essences. So I just wanted to pass this on in case you guys have been dealing with any weird physical symptoms where you can kind of figure out, say, maybe this is the logical explanation, but you know that that's not right because there's more going on. Some things are really weird. At any rate, Lorrayne, thank you. I don't know that I would describe my experience as not excited. I am not excited, but I'm resigned, just saying. And they were laughing, Lorrayne and the source were laughing. Me. You're absolutely right in making this distinction. Not everybody will experience it exactly the same way. But if you notice, you said resigned, which really, what does that translate into? There is no resistance. This is what the big deal is, that there is no resistance. The information is completely percolated and has been integrated, and you are going with the flow. You call it resigned, and that's fine, but you are going with the flow and living every day as it comes. That's it. That's where it's at. Lorrayne, it wouldn't serve to be any other way. Me. Yes, of course you think of it that way. You're a logical person. You're trying to explain it from a 3D perspective. It's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You are where you are. You can explain it however you want, but what matters is, where are you? And that's where you are living day by day. This is what we were referring to. So absolutely, Lorrayne, I'm making the best of it. I'm enjoying the best I can. Just enjoying, that's all. Me. Yeah, and good for you. So in the next question, there is something else that I'm asking about because it has to do with manifestation. And again, I'm noticing that we are now manifesting things. I've been manifesting a lot of stuff in my life. And I'm like, I thought we weren't creating anything new. So now I'm worried. Does this mean that we're resigned to being here for a long time? And that's why I'm manifesting. So that's why I'm asking about this. And I do want to share with you what source says. So here's the question. I know I'm shaping my reality because I came into some money, nothing earth shattering, but I wasn't expecting it. But you said that the higher self was no longer interested in creating anything new. So does this signal that we will stay here much longer in human years? And that's why my higher self is once again improving my life? In fact, suddenly I feel like traveling and moving houses again, even though I've been disinterested in 3D for a long time. Not only, but I had refused to see my friends as NPCs and cause situations so we would lose contact. But now they contact me again and I'm feeling more social, even though I know they're NPCs. And I continue visibly suppressing my YouTube subscriber count, which is a clear sign that we're not going anywhere anytime soon. You said it wouldn't take 10 years to complete this project, but it's already been 2 since the takedown. So why would it not take another 10, 20, or even 30 years? What is it to stop that from happening, considering that we don't seem to be in a hurry? The only urgency, quote unquote, for us was due to not wanting to see the NPCs break down, but they're breaking down badly all around us, and we don't seem to care and continue making excuses for it, even while the supposedly higher vibe reality is even later down before. And this was the gist of it. I don't know if you guys, and you wouldn't, but I keep an eye on my YouTube subscriber count because it's been very clear, even before source, or in the case already 21st was talking about it, that I manipulate it. And you have no idea the stuff that I see happening with that account from my end. I'll get emails from YouTube saying that X amount of people have signed up, and then I will see the count go down by that number of people. And so now it had been going up for several weeks, and all of a sudden it's come down the last few weeks, since basically the energy changed and we are now staying here longer, or we're working on something more exciting. So let's see where that takes us. So here's source. Yeah, so we explained some of this. So we'll just recap. It is very true that we were not interested before. We were bored out of our minds. And you know this from personal perspective, Lorrayne, how bored we were. However, that's not the case anymore. Again, we've let go of resistance. And now we've actually discovered that there might be some fun here to be had while we're waiting. But we're not really waiting at this point. We're just experiencing. And so that has changed, meaning that the higher self is actually back more now and has taken, again, an active interest in certain things because now this is exciting. So the higher self now wants to see, how can we play with this reality? How can we change our reality without, of course, upsetting the veil, upsetting the appearances that we're trying to keep in place? So within the rules of the game, even though the rules of the game here have been broken at this point, we have changed everything. But so the higher self is back. And so it's not a sign they will be here a lot longer. The reason we've renewed interest is not that, oh, well, since I'm going to be here another 30 years, I might as well take an interest in this life again, because the higher self doesn't have to do this. We could be here another 30 years and the higher self might just be doing its own thing. We know this happens. No, the higher self is back. Not all the time, obviously. We are never here all the time, but there was a period of time when the higher self was barely even visiting. And again, we're aware of that because we were bored and we had these repetitive thoughts, etc., etc. Now, for Clea, the repetitive thoughts are gone. And again, this is because we're in a new phase. We feel different, and the higher self is interested in what's happening now. So we are, again, creating new things, whereas we didn't think we were going to create anything new. Now, we're not creating anything new at a planetary level, okay? We said that there's no point. The planet is already a goner. But we are playing with what we are able to do in our own individual realities. And because of this, the higher self is back. But it doesn't mean it's because, again, well, since we're going to be here another 30 years, I might as well build something like my retirement. That's not the point. We said we're going to be here until there is a balance where it kind of makes sense for us. But it's true that the NPCs keep breaking down. So there will come a point where we're like, for example, Clay is worried about her kitties. Her kitties are already older. They're not old, but they're already 14. And so she doesn't want to be here another, say, 5, 6, 10 years, where she would expect from a 3D perspective to lose them. They're supposed to go to New Earth with her. And so we know at some point we're going to call this. The two things seem connected, but that's not the explanation. The fact is we still want to go, but for now, we're enjoying this process. Now, for example, Clea had a dream, and we'll just bring it up now. She had it on Valentine's Day, so that was the 14th of February, where at the end of the dream, in the dream, they said 6 months. And so she's asking about this, and she's thinking August 14th is when it's over. And of course, we said before, that's not quite how it works. It's not a matter of dates in dreams, because it's never written in stone. But that was also, again, to remind her that it's still a reasonably short time. It might not be 6 months, like he said in the dream, but it is still a reasonably short time, whether it is, another year or two, whatever we decide to stay here for. So she doesn't need to worry that she's going to be here forever and ever. I mean, we haven't changed our minds and we haven't changed the plan. At some point, the takedown has to happen. Everybody has left already. We can't just say, well, we decided that we're going to bring back another civilization here, or that we're going to just live our lives with NPCs around forever. Because the NPCs are not a steady state. We'll repeat it again. As much as we're keeping things somewhat stable, the NPCs are dying and they are breaking down badly. And this is going to come to a head at some point, and we're not going to be able to ignore it anymore. This will become a crisis, and we don't want to deal with any crisis. And Source added this later in the session, and I just wanted to give you this bit about this as well, where it says, so I forgot to answer something you mentioned earlier. And again, in this particular question, that's why I put the section here. It was in personal questions, but again, it's about what everybody's experiencing right now. This was in relation to what you mentioned about the fact that Clea was saying I cut off a lot of people. I found excuses to cut off friends so I would not have to speak with them because I know that they are NPCs. But now they're coming back and I'm okay speaking with them, being social as if they're still here. And this goes along with everything else we have said, that we went through a period of mourning for our friends leaving. But now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know that we're not going to be here forever. We're actually enjoying ourselves. So we're okay incorporating. We're okay with the idea that we have NPCs around. We're aware there are NPCs. We're not denying it anymore. But we're okay using them for our own purposes and enjoying. And it makes us happy. And we're fine just lulling ourselves in this pretend reality and enjoying as much as possible before leaving. This is important. I wanted to mention it because it doesn't mean that, again, Clea was thinking, is it because we're going to be here for a long time? So, of course, I can't be a nun, I can't be completely isolated. But it's not that. It really is the fact that we know they're NPCs, but we also know that they are happy and we're okay with that. Again, this was more resistance. It was sadness. And it was resistance that they were gone and were left behind. And while this is very much true, it's not a bad thing, basically. And we will see a lot of our friends again, and we'll be able to check on the ones that are in the chambers. And so we basically mourned long enough to where we feel like, again, we must go on. And I think this also answers one of the things I have noticed in myself, that not only I'm okay being social again. It used to be really painful for me to look around or even focus, or even if I'm not paying attention, I will feel it because I'm not shielding myself. I feel that there's only me, like in a room of people or on the streets, even though there's traffic. And it was difficult. It was very difficult for me at some point. And I was very sad about this whole thing. So my concern, of course, was that how come am I being sociable now? I'm just going to keep on pretending that we're just trying to make do what we have. But the fact is, this also speaks to the fact that we know that our friends are okay. And we come again, there's no more resistance, so we come to terms with this. So we are, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but as you guys know, I am one. It's not it's all the same energy. And so I am okay with all of this now, realizing that it is over. That's how I know that it is over, the fact that there's nobody else around us. And while there was a time when I wanted to deny it for a very long time, I don't know if you guys if you've been with me from the beginning, you know that I didn't used to even believe in NPCs, and now I'm very aware of it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye-bye.